What's up, A to Z Sports here live on a Tuesday. Yes, live on a Tuesday. A lot of you guys complaining that we weren't live yesterday, but we told you we were going to have a great pre-draft conversation that Easton did for the Bart Durham injury law draft interview series. And so we had that play yesterday because it was a federal holiday. And so we took that opportunity to have a slower morning, and God forbid us take a day off after a 6+ month stretch of grind of the football season. I'm sorry that we were not live yesterday, but we move on and we talk now about the loudest problem with Shedeur Sanders as a first overall NFL draft prospect. So Easton, this is something that you cooked up in your brain, I don't know, Thursday afternoon. And I'm like, well, I guess we know what we're talking about next week. And so that is the fact that Shedeur Sanders' last name and his father are creating a lot of noise around him as a draft prospect. So we'll talk about that today. We've got a couple of questions for you guys. We'll put up a lot of polls, I think, because this is a good data gathering show, Easton, on if people are affected or impacted whatsoever about Prime and Coach Prime and Colorado and the glitz and the glam of Deion Sanders and his son, Shedeur Sanders, and the exact type of quarterback that Shedeur Sanders actually is. So we'll discuss that. Then we'll dive into a potential rule breaking of Mike Borgonzi that they're going to have to do maybe. And so we'll talk about what free agency approach the Titans need to make. And then we've got a throw in shade topic at the end of the show. Easton, welcome in. Hope you had a good extended holiday weekend. Let's get this thing off and rolling.
I did. A to Z Sports, where we take President's Day, but not Halloween, Christmas, Thanksgiving, New Year's.
We take Christmas off? What are you talking about?
No, I mean,
New Year's Day.
The show. Of the show. That's fair.
Yeah,
that's
because
fair.
We worked yesterday. We just didn't do a live show yesterday.
Yeah, a lot of very angry, ungrateful little boys and girls in the comments yesterday that it wasn't a live show. But good morning to you, Austin. Happy to be back here live with you. Happy to be back live with everybody in the comments. Good morning to everybody that is with us already. Make sure you're liking the show. That's what we need from you this morning before we get going on some really interesting topics. Like the show for us. Help us out on Facebook, on YouTube. Hit that thumbs up and then jump into the comments. Like Kick It to the King, Swan, Chris, Rambo, American Toff, Demario. A lot of familiar faces in there. Jump in there with them. Today's a great day to be a part of the conversation because there's going to be a lot to chime in on. So, Austin, let's get it started.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports here live on a Tuesday. I'm Austin Stanley with Easton Freeze, one of our Titans reporters for A to Z Sports.com, and we're Nashville's on-demand sports.network, going live weekday morning at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. Also got to hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. You can also leave us that 5-star Google review. That goes a long way as well. Have to thank our sponsors because they make it happen for us and they help out all of you. Wilson County Hyundai, make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care. TDOT is out there trying to keep our state beautiful and trying to find a solution to end littering across Tennessee. And we can help by going to nobodytrashestennessee.com. And the Bart Durham injury law, where a crash can change your life forever, but help is just a click away at bartdurham.com. So Easton, one of the comments I saw from the YouTube waiting room before we officially went live this morning, as the topic in the title today reads, the loudest problem with Shedeur Sanders as a first overall NFL draft prospect, is Ira Hoshi. I'd take anyone over Sanders. No, you wouldn't. Not anyone. But I think this small, short comment is kind of the point of today's show. Because my immediate question back to IR or anybody, not to just point him out, but back to this type of answer is why? Right? Why?
Well, I'll tell you why. Look on your screen right below your face when I remove IR Hoshi's comment. See that word irrational? That's the reason why right there.
Right, because no, you wouldn't take anybody over Shedeur Sanders. Would you draft Will Howard #1 overall over Shedeur Sanders?
Apparently. Jalen Milroe, come on down.
Yes, like there's so many. Like, bring Carson Beck out of Miami and have him go number 1 overall.
Hey,
No,
Quinn
you wouldn't
Ewers is
do
in
that.
this draft. All right, listen,
Yes, Quinn
go get
Ewers.
Quinn.
No, absolutely not. So there are so many, and there's a lot of other players. Would you take if you're a Vol fan? Would you take James Pierce number 1 overall over Shedeur Sanders? No, you would not do that.
Yes,
So
VFL.
that is the overall point of this morning's show, because no, you wouldn't. A lot of people have a preconceived notion about Shedeur Sanders, and it's time we have a conversation about this. But yesterday, Easton, you and Corey Kinnan, as a part of your Bart Durham injury law interview series ahead of the NFL draft, we're having a lot of really good conversations with different NFL draft media members and people that are really diving in deep when it comes to draft season. Talked about Shedeur Sanders a lot. And if you missed that, that's what was in place in the morning show yesterday. It was a really good 30 minutes or so of conversation about why Corey believes Shedeur Sanders is worth a number 1 overall pick, not Cam Ward. So you're going through and you've talked to somebody who was the opposite. Why Cam Ward, not Shedeur Sanders? And so you're going to continue to get a bunch of different opinions.
Yeah, there were a couple people in the comments of that live show like, whoa, Easton just bringing on a guy that's confirming his priors. He brought on a guy that's a Shedeur guy because he doesn't want to talk to a Cam guy. Guys, the second episode of this interview series was all about why Cam Ward is the pick at number 1, not Shedeur Sanders. That was 3 weeks ago.
And the first
let's try to keep up here. Let's try to keep up.
And the first episode of this interview series was the Titans head coach.
Right.
So that
we've done Brian Callahan for 90 minutes. Why you should pick Cam Ward, why you should pick Sam Darnold, and then why you should pick Shedeur Sanders. Those are the 4 things so far. So we've covered all the quarterback angles that there are to cover. I promise, if you're like sick and tired of the quarterback thing, by the way, which I'm sure some people are like, there are other players in this draft. The Titans do in fact need some other players on this team besides quarterback. Once the combine starts next week, brother, we're diving in on all the other positions, O-line, edge, receiver. We're talking all of those things. So don't you worry.
Just Smash says, you ever going to do the over under 2.5 years topic? I brought up Austin. I paid for that idea. Oh yeah. I have it screenshot. I believe I've texted it to Easton and Sam. So it is documented in our text group. When you do a little cool Apple iPhone thing, we can look and see all the pictures that we've sent each other. So it is there somewhere. So, but let's play from Corey Kinnan about Shedeur Sanders, the actual quarterback prospect. And Corey does a good job. And you can, if you watch the full interview, you heard this, but he charts all of the throws and deems the accuracy level of all the throws, not just if it's a completion or an incompletion, but the ball placement of all the throws, the last 3 quarterback cycles. So here was Easton and Corey Kinnan talking about Shedeur Sanders and his accuracy compared to the last 3 classes.
But over the last 3 years, Jaden Daniels is the highest, the most accurate quarterback that I've charted at 74.44%. Just for record, the first rounders last year, Bo Nix was at 68.78. Drake May was at 70.89. The average of a first rounder is about 67.25. Shedeur Sanders is at 73.26. So over the last 3 years, only Jaden Daniels would be a more accurate passer that I've charted than Shedeur Sanders over the last 3 years. And so I do think that the elite ball placement is there as well. But I would agree with you that he's got a B- level arm and, probably B- level athleticism. But I think I would take, again, that ability to play in structure. I think he's a really high IQ football player. And so I will take that A+ football acumen and A+ accuracy with B-level tools over A-level tools and a guy that just, Zach Wilson's a really good example of this, a guy who could throw the football over the football field, but showed at BYU he couldn't play in structure. Showed at the NFL level it was really overwhelming for him to learn a complete playbook, and he never got it. And now he's a backup in, free agent, but was a backup in Denver last year and a backup in New York 2 years after he's picked 2nd overall. So that's kind of where I'm at with Sanders, is I'll take those intangibles and the accuracy over elite tools, I think. Yeah.
So there's Corey Kinnan talking with Easton that we aired yesterday. And so just to recap, the second most accurate quarterback that was drafted in the first round in the last 3 draft cycles. And I think we can believe that Shedeur Sanders is going to be drafted in the first round, whether it's at number 1 overall, 3, 6, 7, or whatever. He's going to go in the first round. And then I think another thing that's interesting, B- tools, but A+ accuracy and A+ between the ears. Is that fair for me to recap?
Yeah, that's the take. I think that was the point that Corey made, and something that I tend to agree with. I think that all of the draft traits that we think about most often, which are physically based, arm strength, arm talent, general athleticism, mobility, size, durability, speed, the things that we're testing for at the combine mostly, right? Those things are all average and nothing to write home about for Shedeur Sanders. It is in the accuracy and in the mental processing department that whatever team drafts him, that's what they're going to be hanging their hat on.
100%. And so let's play this other clip too from you and Corey talking about all the things that we just heard, right? Really accurate, but not the high level athlete, because that's confusing. Because as I just saw this comment from C Rich, if Shedeur's name was Shedeur Kirkland from Alabama, you'd all be losing it over a pocket passer who plays with anticipation. Like, that is the perfect comment, C Rich, for what we're going to get into now, because he's not being talked about that at all.
If he's this fantastic, top 3, top 2 most accurate passer of the past 3 cycles, why do you think he's not being talked about that way? Are we just simply undervaluing accuracy in the way that we look at quarterbacks now? Is it that we're looking for these sexy traits that he doesn't have? Is it that everybody hates the Sanders of it all and the circus, and they're inclined to not like him? What do you think it is?
I do think the last name has a bit to do with it. I think it would be naive to say that has nothing to do with it. I do think that people really value time to throw and pressure to sack ratio, and I think you should. And Sanders is among the top in that, but so is Ward. If you look at the numbers as well, especially if you parse out Ward's early season and parse just split out what he did in conference, it gets kind of ugly in terms of turnover worthy play, time to throw, pressure to sack in conference play for Ward. And so I think the context is a little bit different there too, where I don't think Sanders had a very good, I don't know if there's a single draftable offensive lineman on that offensive line that he's playing behind. And then his left tackle was a true freshman, and Jordan Seaton, and even Jordan Seaton's tape is a true freshman, whatever. He's a 5-star. He can obviously get there. I'm not writing the narrative on him yet, but I didn't think he was spectacular as a true freshman. So.
All right. So there is that, I think you bring up the point of the last name, his father, and everything that goes around that. So let's go ahead, Easton, and ask this question. Buy or sell? That's buy or sell that Shedeur Sanders' last name is the biggest reason why he gets so much hate. Buy or sell that Shedeur Sanders' last name is the biggest reason why he gets so much hate. So I'm going to put up a YouTube poll as well after I send out the tweet for the segment. But buy or sell Shedeur Sanders' last name is the biggest reason why he gets so much hate in this draft process. But first, Easton, tell everybody about our great new friends, and that is the Bart Durham Injury Law.
Yeah, love our friends over at Bart Durham Injury Law. A crash can change your life forever, and help is only a click away over there at bartdurham.com. Your big truck wreck is their fight for justice. They want to help you, and they can be reached 24/7 over there. Their team of attorneys, you can get to them anytime at 615-242-9000. They believe you deserve to be paid, and so you can meet with those attorneys whenever, wherever is most convenient for you, including over the phone virtually. You visit their website, bartdurham.com, for current news, blogs. Contact them via live chat. There's so much more over there in terms of resources available to you at bartdurham.com than just an attorney. If you want to learn all about rules of the road, rules of engagement during weather events that we're going to probably have here in the Middle Tennessee area later this week.
Tonight.
Yeah, tonight. Good point. Tonight. More on that in my shade a little bit later.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
They've been in business since 1975, which is 50 years ago. So they've been doing this for a very, very long time, dealing with all kinds of wrecks. They are located here in Nashville, Capitol View. They're local, but they will fight for anybody in all of Tennessee, all of Kentucky that has been in an auto accident. So check them out over there at bartdurham.com.
New content idea. Bart Durham Injury Law. It's SNL, same age. There's a bit there. There's a new commercial that I will have to reach out to Blair and Brent about what they can do to spoof off that, because I stayed up way too late last night watching SNL 50.
Mm.
That's a different thing. Yeah, also, like the show. If you have not liked the show yet, please give us a like on Facebook and YouTube. Like the show because we're about to dive in to this Shedeur Sanders conversation here. So we just played the Corey Kennan clips. He is the behind Jaden Daniels of the last 3 draft classes. Shedeur Sanders as a hypothetical first-round pick, the second most accurate thrower, according to Corey Kennan, who covers the NFL draft you talked to this past week. Behind Jaden Daniels, a B- arm strength, A+ accuracy, B- athleticism, but A+ between the ears. Those sound like the exact opposite of what you would expect from Deion Sanders' son. The other joke that you said, I forget the draft analyst that did this, but you said that the one of your draft analyst friends that you follow, maybe it's Denny Kelly, said that the joke on the whole analysis is that Travis Hunter is actually Deion Sanders' son, not Shedeur Sanders.
Yeah,
Travis
my friend Danny Kelly, who's going to be one of our guests on the interview series, spoiler, he does the Ringer draft guide over at theringer.com, and he's like the king of funny comps, and his comp for Travis Hunter is if Deion Sanders had a son, which is just funny because he does have a son and he's in this draft class. But if you didn't know who was whose son, you would assume Travis Hunter is the one that plays like Prime because he plays like Prime. His actual son is not anywhere near as athletic as he was and is a very different type of, obviously probably going to be drafted higher than his dad was. So not a bum of a, wait, when was Deion? He was a top 10
Deion
pick.
was like number 2.
Was he number 2? Okay, I didn't know. I knew he was top 10. I didn't know where. Okay, so maybe not. Maybe, though. There's a chance he's drafted higher than his dad.
Deion was the 5th overall in 1989.
Yeah, so I would actually bet on his son going higher than him in the draft, which just goes to the quality of him as a player and also the importance of the position that he plays. So not saying that his actual son is a bum. They just are not similar.
No, not at all. So Eric says, so they hate him because of who his father is. That's the question. Yeah. So buy or sell. We just put this, buy or sell, that the biggest reason why Shedeur Sanders gets hate is because of his last name. So I just posted that in the chat again. I'm going to read this, some comments there. I'll up the YouTube poll. Kick of the King starts us off with a big buy. Curtis says buy. Mark buy. John buy. Eric Castillo is a sell. Our first sell of the comments. Michael says buy. Jason buy. Ann is a buy. IR is a sell, who, if we remember, IR was the I'd take anyone over Sanders. And so I'm curious.
IR is lying to himself.
I honestly, like, why would you? I want to know IR's comment. I'm not trying to hate on IR. I'm not trying to single him out. I think he is a great case study for this. Like, what is your actual reason why you would not want Deion Sanders or Shedeur Sanders over anyone else over Shedeur at number 1, but you're selling that it's not because of Deion? Daniel's a buy. Mark is a huge buy. Darius buy, in-sync style. Steven says buy. Charlie Hustle.
What are you looking
Pete
at?
Rose? Is it Pete Rose? Is a buy. Louis says buy. Top tier, easy buy. That went way over your head because you're too young. Charlie Hustle is Pete Rose's nickname. Rooney says buy. Omar buy. Look, we have so many buys, Easton. Ethan is a sell. I'm looking for sells now. Jackson's a sell. American Toff is a sell. Seeing if I can find some more as a quick scroll. Overall, Just Smash is buy. Deion being a polarizing figure equates in people's head that his son's the same way. Great. Tall Texan says sell. Watch him play. He isn't a first-round guy, maybe a third-round guy.
No.
Okay, but hey, at least it's somebody who's saying watch him play. At least
that's fine, but then the sentence after watch him play proves to me that you haven't watched him play, or you don't know how to evaluate quarterbacks. One of the two.
And look, hey, there's a lot of people that are employed by NFL franchises whose jobs are to scout that don't know how to evaluate quarterback play. It's not. Cole brings up. Cole's had a couple comments. So the only reason he gets love, if his dad wasn't coaching, nobody would care.
Yeah, mark that one for later. Mark that one.
Okay, I'm gonna mark that one for later because Cole's got a couple others. Crap, where'd it go? There it is. All right. So
Cole's not alone in thinking that, by the way.
No.
Cole, a lot of comments like that right there from Cole on my Twitter account last week was frankly the reason why I texted you real hot and was like, We're talking about this next week.
Yeah,
I'm
so
sick and tired of
Cole's
these.
got 3 comments that I marked. So we're just going to jump into this because my answer is buy. I'm guessing your answer is also buy on this, buy or sell, right?
Sorry, I was still reading comments. What were you
Your answer is buy on
Yeah,
the buy or sell,
100% buy.
right?
Yes, obviously.
So,
Yeah.
so you say 100%, but the answer is 82% of the poll say buy. So we both say buy. 82% of the poll say buy. So Cole's 3 comments here, Easton, I think bring this up perfectly.
Okay.
Cole says Sanders has to watch his turnovers. Easton, I'll let you count up Shedeur, I keep just saying Dion now. Shedeur Sanders turnovers this past year, fumbles, interceptions. I'll let you go do that.
By the way, I'd be curious to ask Cole if he has an issue with Cam Ward fumbling the ball 50 times in college.
Exactly. Cole says you only draft Sanders if you want to sell tickets and make this franchise more dysfunctional. And then says sell, it's the only reason he gets love. If his dad wasn't coaching, nobody would care.
What was the second one again? Read the second comment.
You only draft Shedeur Sanders if you want to sell tickets and make this franchise more dysfunctional, is what Cole says.
Also, crazy. This is another thing that I'm seeing people. Somebody yesterday during the live stream of our interview about Shedeur commented accusing me of only wanting the Titans to draft Shedeur because it helps my writing prospects and it does better for us for clicks, which is crazy to me that people think Cam Ward is just going to be this nightmare of a click scenario from a content. Oh, heaven forfend. Cam Ward is a Tennessee Titan. What will happen to our precious clicks? Cam Ward would be fantastic for content. What are we talking about? We think Shedeur Sanders would be better for content than Cam Ward. They'd both be fantastic. That's crazy to me, Austin. Cam Ward went to a bigger school. You want to talk about clicks? Dirty little secret? Like, where the college a young player came from has a lot to do with the number of clicks they get earlier in their NFL career, because college fans are crazy. They're very online and they love to follow the early career happenings of their guy. And Cam Ward is Miami's guy. Miami fans are going to give you more clicks than you could possibly ask for if you're writing about Cam Ward the next couple of years.
I will tell you this as the person who runs the website of A to Z Sports.com that dives into data and analytics about fan bases and tendencies. The website, A to Z Sports.com, will probably never have an assigned Colorado Buffaloes beat.
Right.
The Miami Hurricanes are on our short list of who to expand into this upcoming football season.
Right.
The Colorado Buffaloes will never be. We've had that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We don't do it now. We just cover Prime and we cover Dion, but we don't have to have a designated section for Colorado for that. We might as well have a designated section for A to Z Sports.com /Dion/Sanders before we have anything that's Colorado football. So, Easton, I think I will let you talk because I've been talking a lot. Did you find Shedeur Sanders turnovers from last year because Cole thinks he has to watch his turnovers, which news break, every NFL quarterback has to watch out for turnovers.
You mean last year he fumbled the ball 4 times, threw 10 interceptions, and threw 37 touchdowns.
And I believe he ran for 4 touchdowns too.
In his Colorado career, he threw 13 interceptions, 64 touchdowns. What are we talking about?
So, and that was just the last 2 years.
There are ways to critique. There are plenty of ways to critique Shedeur Sanders as a prospect. Turnovers is not one of them. Turnovers are absolutely a way to critique the other quarterback. And I hate that I'm being painted in this, like I'm almost being forced narratively into this corner of propping up Shedeur Sanders, and it makes it seem like I'm putting down Cam Ward. I tweeted yesterday about how I think both of having watched enough of them now to have a firm opinion of my own. I think that they both are. I'm higher on both than I think most people are. Mm-hmm. I think that they're both worthy top 10 picks, where most people tend to think one is, one isn't, or both aren't. I think both are. I think that history is going to look back on this draft class, the narrative of, it's a pretty weak quarterback class. I think it's going to look back on that relatively poorly because of these 2 top guys at the top of the draft. Are they perfect prospects? No. Are either of them Trevor Lawrence or Caleb Williams or, even Bryce Young? Maybe not quite to that level in terms of prospect, but they are absolutely top 10 worthy quarterback picks. And I think that at least one of them is going to work out in the NFL as a starter.
Yeah. Going back to Cole, because Cole's coming in strongly. He's defending his take. Cole says Ward fumbled 4 times and threw less interceptions. I think like, I mean, in the box score, yes, right? Because Cole, you're looking at lost fumbles. It's Jaquan Jackson only lost 2 fumbles last year as a Titans return man, but how many times did he actually put the ball on the ground?
Cam Ward's entire college career, he put the ball on the ground far too often. Last year, he did a better job of it, to be fair. He cleaned that up in a big way compared to the other seasons, but the bar was low. And to your point, Austin, there's some luck there in terms of how often he actually lost the ball. Now, Cole, you know what? Send Cole a link. Get Cole in here. We need a third person. Just let Cole co-host the show. Another thing that we don't have to talk about today because we don't have enough time to cover everything, but something we're definitely going to talk about is how it's starting to really piss me off the way people are apples to apples comparing the situation of these two players. If Shedeur Sanders was playing in Miami and Cam Ward was playing in Colorado, both of their seasons would have looked differently. I asked you this, Austin, yesterday. Can you name a Colorado running back?
No, I also can't name a Miami running back, but that's
beside the point because
I can name more Miami. I mean, like I can't name many weapons on either team other than like the Restrepo the tight end of
Travis
right?
Hunter, right?
Well, yeah, I know there's like a horn over there. West. I mean, Colorado had good weapons. Miami had good weapons.
Sorry, Colorado had a better receiving core, I think. But people might argue that. I think just the fact that you have, Travis Hunter alone probably puts you over the edge. But even if you kind of count him out, I do think it was probably a better top to bottom receiving core. Everything else was worse about Colorado. Everything, inarguably. Like Colorado's top rusher last year eclipsed 1,000 yards. Colorado's top rusher last year didn't eclipse 400 yards.
I mean, Miami had a 1,000-yard rusher.
Miami's top rusher, Damian Martinez, 1,002 yards last year. Colorado's top rusher, whose name I've already forgotten, and I looked it up yesterday, had like 357 yards. Shedeur Sanders was the second most successful rusher on the team. They could not run the ball because their offensive line stinks, as Corey Kinnan in the clip we played earlier points out. Yeah. There are 4 undraftable, draft eligible guys, and then one true freshman who is a 5-star who may become a very good player, but was a true freshman tackle. So he was running for. I mean, people constantly are like, he bails from pockets too much. It's because if he stays in some of these pockets, guys, he's going to die. What are we talking about? He has to. And then also their defense dramatically worse. Colorado's defense was the biggest reason why they didn't end up in the playoff last year, right? It's because their defense was paper mache. Miami's defense wasn't fantastic, but it was definitively better than Colorado's. So Cam Ward was in a better situation than Shedeur Sanders was. He was.
All right, so let's take this a step further because we have a super chat that does this, and I like it a lot. And it's Kicker to the King says, are some Titans fans still butthurt from Dion calling Byard just a fan and Terry Robisky should be the head coach? Grow up, move on, draft Shedeur. So there was another.
This goes to your point yesterday, Austin, too, where Sam and I on a call, unrelated call, we were like, well, hate him or love him, Deion Sanders, he's never failed at anything. And you're like, correction, not good as an analyst, good at all of the football things.
Terrible
analyst. And that was the highlight of his failed analyst run right there.
Yeah. Was calling Byard just a fan, didn't know him. So, all right. So let's ask this level of the question. What does the Sanders name affect more? Shedeur's draft hype or his draft hate? Because I've seen another comment that I can't find anymore, but was saying that the only reason why he does
that was one of Corey's comments.
Was it one of Corey's?
Oh, Cole's. Yeah. Cole's. It was one of Cole's comments. Cole. Yeah. This right here.
If his dad wasn't coaching, nobody would care.
It's the only reason he gets love is what Cole thinks.
So I'm gonna end this one poll, which buy or sell. Buy is 80% of the audience buys his last name is the biggest reason why he gets hate. So the next question we're gonna dive into is what does the Sanders name affect more? Shedeur's draft hype or his draft hate? Because I do think there's both because of his last name, fairly. But which is more? Real quick, Bone and Joint Institute, they will help you out. Whenever an injury may pop up in life, they've got you covered. I've had a couple injuries I've had to deal with, some tendonitis in my knee. a little foot injury that I had to deal with, and they helped me out over the last few years, rehab those injuries, learn about how to manage those injuries so I get to stay out of the doctor's office as I continue to get older. Because unfortunately, tendonitis just doesn't really go away. You just have to manage it, take care of it. And it's one of those, you're getting old injuries.
You're like a 32-year-old wide receiver. That's never getting better, buddy.
34-year-old wide receiver there, bud. So
it's giving you the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, but look, the Bone and Joint Institute equipped me on how to manage that injury and how to stay on top of it so I can stay active, work out, exercise, do all the things I want to do in life, and not have to sit on the sidelines and just accept that injury is not going to really go away, but how to manage it. And the Bone and Joint Institute was able to show me how to do things at home with physical therapy and everything else to keep that tendonitis, soreness, and stiffness and all that pain away as long as possible. And they can do the same thing for you. So online, when you need them, boneandjointtn.org. They're located in Franklin, Tennessee, off Highway 96, and right next to Williamson Medical Center. So once again, online, boneandjointtn.org.
Hey, there is so much more to say today. But before we get to any of it, need to make sure you guys are subscribed to the A to Z Sports YouTube channel. If you're watching with us on YouTube right here, right below, next to the like button, which you should already have clicked, it should be blue for you. Hit subscribe if you are not subscribed already so you don't miss anything in terms of morning shows, in terms of premieres of pre-recorded episodes, which if you've liked what we've done so far in the draft and review series, it is about to ramp up in a big way. I've got like 6 or 7 very high-profile friends that I'm meeting at the Combine who are going to sit down and record a bunch of them, and we're going to be doing them every week from now until the draft. And you're going to really like them, and it's going to be names that you recognize and respect and want to hear from about the Titans in particular. So make sure you are subscribed. Maybe hit that bell notification button so that you don't miss a single thing.
Yeah, 6 or 7 high-profile friends that you will kidnap for our own benefit for about 15 minutes of the Combine.
I've been texting them this week, like, hey, you going to be there? Cool. And then I'm going to show up with a black bag, put it over their heads. So you're coming with me.
Talk draft to me for 20 minutes.
Come here.
We need it. All right, so here we go. So this new question, and I got to put up a YouTube poll. What does the Sanders name affect more, Shedeur's hype or hate when it comes to draft? And we got super chats. We'll get to the super chats here in a second as well. So Easton, I'm going to send you the chat. Hype or hate? Which is the Sanders name affecting more for Shedeur in this draft process? Hype or hate? What are you seeing from the chat?
Yeah, Kunu and Corey and Kyle and Henry and Jason all say it's the draft hate that is most affected, as does Eric, by the way, as does Swan, by the way, as does Darius and Guy. They all think that hate is the thing most affected by the Sanders name in this draft cycle. On the other side of the coin, Jay and Ethan and Steven all think that and John all think that it's the hype that he most benefits from because of his last name. So it looks like a 70-30, 80-20 split in terms of hate versus hype. I think it's less lopsided than our first question about buying or selling, whether or not he gets hate because of his name. People agree he gets hate. That seemed pretty definitive on our first question. But here, people are maybe disagreeing a little bit more about whether or not it is the hate or the hype that he gets more of. So yes, he gets hate, but some folks think the hype is even more heavy because of his last name than the hate that he's getting.
Well, here's this. Bronze Village Films says, Easton, what the hell are you talking about? Sanders had a Heisman Trophy wide receiver. Of course he had a better situation. Plus, a head coach that's your dad.
I said he had a better receiving core. What are you talking about, Bronze Village Films? And a head coach that your dad, that's helpful in Pee Wee basketball when you it means you're going to be the point guard and get the ball more. How is that helpful in FBS college football? That doesn't help you at all.
Yeah. Where does having the head coach as your dad, where does FBS college football rank?
Where does it stop?
Yeah. Like where does that rank on the most beneficial, your dad's the coach spots, right? Like
very low. Very low.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't even think Pee Wee football, it helps if your head coach is your dad. Like, I don't know. Dads are trying to win, guys. Like dads are trying to win games or coaching. Let's be real here.
The downside there, yeah, if things go poorly, you're the one that has to go home with coach now. You get to keep hearing it when you go home. You know what I mean? Like you don't get to leave it.
Yes. So I honestly do think I think Dion creates more hate for Shedeur Sanders because Dion is super polarizing. When we were texting about this whole topic, I've said because Dion has been kind of a jerk, asshole, prick, whatever, for like 35 years publicly. He was drafted in 1989 in the NFL Combine. Deion Sanders was so confident, arrogant, cocky, whatever adjective you want to use, in the NFL Combine that he participated in. He ran his 40-yard dash and then kept running off of the field. He just kept going, and then he left. That was it. Like, it was a great bit, right?
I support that.
It was not that long ago that he came back and did the combine drills with a commercial bit of wearing a wig and running drills, right? As like a 40-year-old guy, 45-year-old guy.
Deion Sandcastle?
Yes, Sandcastle, yes. So, look, Deion Sanders, I think, is the reason why people don't like Shedeur Sanders. Because if you listen to Shedeur Sanders talk, he's a normal guy. He's actually very well put together. One of my biggest benefits.
This is crazy. Tall Texan just discrediting himself entirely in the comments. That's insane.
Look, Deion's a Hall of Famer. Like,
yes,
he was
he's one of the 100 best players in NFL history. Maybe one of the 50 best players in NFL history. Top 3 is insane.
I mean, top 3 is crazy. I don't want to hear anybody's top 3 NFL players list because it's going to be stupid with whoever, there's too many people to put in the top 3.
Yeah, there's like 15 or 20 people there's like 10 that you could justify probably being in your top 3.
Yeah, so I'm not here to have a conversation on who is a top 10 NFL player of all time. That's a waste of time.
Yeah, I'm not telling you who is. I'm telling you who isn't, and it's Deion Sanders.
I mean, but again, he's an instant Hall of Famer.
Yes,
with what he was able to do, how he changed the game, what he did off the field, on the baseball diamond,
all-time unique athlete for sure.
Yes, for sure. So, but again, instant Hall of Famer, but he's also an instant superstar. He is prime. He is doing rap videos in the 90s. He's playing for the Cowboys.
Like father, like son.
He's doing all the things, right? Like he is a off the field, like culture icon and needle mover.
He's Mr. Entertainment. Entertainment. Yeah.
And so I think that makes people hate him, especially when he carried that over into being a draft analyst and sat on a throne and wore a crown
and sucked at it
and called the top player of the day on Sunday night to say, "You're my prime time player," and then might know his name because he doesn't care.
Might know his name. I'm being fed his name right now. Yeah.
Yeah, because Deion doesn't care. Like Deion doesn't have to care because it doesn't affect him. So I think Shedeur Sanders being Deion Sanders' son brings on more draft hate than it does hype.
Tehran, what's up, TD, brings up, ironically, every year there's a prospect that has a relative that played in the league or any pro sport. They always get the credit for the bloodlines of it, right? This guy's got good genes. But in this case, it's a Hall of Fame player and somehow it's a bad thing. Great point. I think just last year, who's the first receiver off the board? Marvin Harrison Jr. A lot of conversations in the year since that he's kind of struggled a little bit. He didn't have a bad rookie year, but it was not the transcendent rookie year that some folks were hoping he would have.
It wasn't Malik Neighbors.
Well, exactly. He was not the number 1 or number 2 receiver in that rookie class because Brian Thomas Jr. had an infinitely better season than he had.
LSU.
Write that down. Draft LSU receivers.
Except for racing and math.
Well, not all. Just go for all of them. You'll occasionally have.
He didn't play wide receiver in LSU, which is the problem. So.
That's part of it. But to Tehran's point, like in the year since, with even Marvin Harrison Jr., some folks wondering, well, if he was Marvin Johnson, just not Harrison, what would the talk been about? What would the narrative have been? And he would still have been a top pick.
How about this question? Who has more questionable off-field situations, Deion Sanders or Marvin Harrison Sr.?
Fair question.
Yeah. Obviously, it's not the one who's the head coach of the Colorado Buffaloes who's changing a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, what's Marvin Harrison Sr. up to these days? Anybody know?
I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, I mean, TD's all over it. That for some reason and I think a part of that has to do with, again, the bit about how it seems like his actual son on the team is not his son, just from a gene standpoint, because Shedeur, I think people are like, well, you can't talk about the genes of it all, the bloodlines of it all, like Tehran said, because he's just not even in the same world as an athlete. He, size wise, relatively similar, but other than that, that's where the comparisons end. And that's true. But something that I think, and I bet Tehran would agree with me on this, something that I think we should be talking more about because of his family situation, and again, we may not have time for it today, is that the preparation between his ears because of his situation, both from he's somebody, I think Brian Callahan is the one who mentioned this first, this cycle that made me think about it. Like, the kid has money. He knows what it's like to have money. He knows what it's like to constantly be in the spotlight. He knows what it's like to have irrational hate rained down on you for whatever reason. In his case, because of his family situation. He knows what it's like to, he knows from his father, he has a firsthand source on transitioning from college to the NFL, becoming an NFL rookie, going from rookie status to star status, all things that his father did. His father probably, made the mistakes, learned along the way, has some answers to the test that he can directly supply his son, insider trading on how to become a star in the NFL. Like, all of that is incredibly valuable, incredibly. And so, that is, if you want to talk about the bloodlines of it all, it's the proximity he has to this Hall of Famer and the experience that he has and the lifestyle that he's already living that is setting him up for success to make a smooth transition to NFL life.
Yeah, I think, and I said this weeks ago, I think it was with Zach, that like the one thing with Shedeur Sanders that you don't have to worry about is the person. Like, the one thing you might have to worry about is he a good enough athlete to play successfully at the NFL? Like, does he have enough traits? If he's a B- traits guy, according to Corey Kinnan that we played earlier, but he's an A+ between the ears and an A+ accurate thrower. Again, I need the nervous system. What did we just talk about with Jalen Hurts last week after he was the Super Bowl MVP? Is that I want nervous system, I want between the ears and the mindset over the elite traits. You got to have passable traits, but I would take the elite mindset over the elite traits because that's what matters, because your traits fall apart in the biggest moments when you don't have the elite mindset.
And Austin, I know you've heard things. I know I have heard some firsthand reports. I'm sure Tehran has heard plenty of this as well. The early returns on Shedeur Sanders' character report from the regional scouts who, were studying him at Colorado during the year, as well as the early returns on the character evaluation from meetings with him when media outlets are just sitting down with him throughout this draft process, are as A+++ as they get. Like, there's a lot of guys that are like, that get a check mark in terms of the pass fail of, good character, like no concerns here. And then there are occasionally guys who you're like, not only are there no concerns, like, we think this is a strength. This is a note for him, is that, wow, extremely high character, no concerns, no worries about their mentality, their approach, their demeanor. And from what I have heard, again, it's still early in the combine and pro day and all these things are about to happen. So we'll hear more about it, I'm sure. But what I've heard so far about those things is that it is a real strength of his, and it is something that he's managed to impress teams with.
Yeah, I agree. Like, it's, and I think Cam Ward's probably the same way.
Yes, and I want us to continue to reiterate the fact that when we're saying these things about Shedeur, we're not implying that it's the opposite case for Cam. Not at all. Again, I like them both a lot. So Austin, can I direct us back towards the second question we asked a little bit, because I feel like we didn't quite address that question about whether or not it's the high. You did, I guess. You said that you thought it was the hate more.
Yes.
That is he's getting more hate as a result of his Sanders name. I, of course, obviously am going to agree with you on that. And so I want to bring back up that comment from Cole. Was it Cole who said that earlier?
I think I deleted it.
I'm going to paraphrase Cole's comment. That's fine, because it's not a thing that it was Cole, right? I'm getting the name right, at least.
Cole's the one who said the only reason why you would draft Shedeur is to sell tickets, or because
that was a watching him, we wouldn't know about him. Basically.
Yeah.
And I am extremely appreciative of Cole's involvement in today's show, even though we're kind of casting you as the heel here, Cole. The opinions you're espousing bravely are ones that are very widely held. So you're not alone in this. And that's a big reason why we're talking about this morning, is because I have seen online for weeks now this idea. It's two different schools of thought, right? And we've kind of addressed them both. One school of thought is, well, he's not getting more hate because he's a Sanders. He's just hated because he's a bad prospect. We've already kind of addressed that. I think that's crazy. I think whether you realize it or not, that some people just don't like people. I know plenty of rational evaluators who I am friends with, who are smart people who I trust, who have Sanders as an early second round grade. They're just not crazy about him as a prospect. They got nothing against him personally. And like, to those people, I understand. I'm not saying that the only reason you don't think Shedeur Sanders is worthy of the number 1 overall pick is because you hate him for his name. I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that an overwhelming number of people, online at least, have an irrational level of hate for him that seems to only be coming from the last name of it all, because it's so over the top it can't possibly be about an actual evaluation. You get what I'm saying? The hate is so strong, it can't be based on what you're seeing. It can't be, because what you're seeing, if we did a blind tape test and you didn't know who it was, and you were just I told you it was Max Brosmer from Minnesota, and you're like, okay, Max Brosmer, let's check him out.
If it was the like March Madness like blind resumes, like which team gets in? They have this many quad 1 wins and this many quad 3 losses. Yeah. Right.
Then the hate would not be to this level. And yet, and I tweeted this yesterday, when you create any draft content right now that is, I like Shedeur Sanders, you get this vitriolic, toxic hate in the comments. When you create any draft content right now that's like, I like Cam Ward, you get comments dissenting, like, I disagree with this opinion. But it's very like scholarly and appropriate and nice and neat. And people are like, well, yeah, I think for this reason and this reason, I don't love the accuracy. I think that his arm's a tad overrated. Just like scouting things. And it's completely different. And I know, because we just did that at A to Z's YouTube channel. We did both of those things relatively close to each other. And if you want, an example of those results, they're right there for you in the YouTube comment section. You can go check them out for yourself. So that's number one. Is some people think that for some reason the hate is because of his profile, which I think is crazy. The other school of thought, which I now want to address, is this idea that, yes, he gets some hate because of his last name. Fair. But it gets more hype. And if it weren't for his last name, if it weren't for his situation in Colorado, we wouldn't even be talking about him. He'd be an afterthought in this draft class. He'd be a day 3 pick. That's insane. The reason I know that's insane is because this draft class is, as we've talked about, relatively barren at the quarterback position. It's slim pickings. And I'm old enough to remember people convincing themselves of far, 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 far worse players as potential first over. I mean, we're sitting here right now and we're all having to listen to, oh man, this Ole Miss kid, first rounder, Jackson Dart, first rounder. You can't tell me that if we're sitting here currently doing the is Jackson Dart a first round prospect conversation, that the only reason Shedeur Sanders is in the first round prospect conversation is because of his last name. That's crazy. Yeah. I remember Right. I mean, talk about another Ole Miss prospect that people tried to convince themselves on a couple of years ago. Whose name, he's out of the league now, so I'm completely blanking on his name. To the Malik Willis draft, Matt Corral. Like, that's a guy that people tried to convince themselves on. The Cincinnati kid in that class in 22, Desmond Ritter, somebody that we were, lest we forget, we were actively up until April talking about Desmond Ritter, first round pick. Maybe he goes in the mid 20s. We did that with all of those guys, and I've watched those guys, and I've watched Shedeur Sanders. It is not because of his name that he's being talked about as a potential first round pick. It can't be, unless we've all been lobotomized in the last year and forgotten the way that we used to evaluate quarterbacks. His hype would be higher, in my opinion. To put a bow on this, I think that the hate would be cut in half, and I think that he would get just as much, if not probably a little bit more hype than he currently is, if he was Shedeur Johnson instead of Shedeur Sanders. I think that if people were looking at him through the lens of some random kid that, again, played quarterback at Minnesota and looked at, okay, good receivers, but the offensive line was non-existent, run game non-existent, defense non-existent. Very productive 4-year player, transferred, went from a small school to a big school, FBS, made the transition well. I think this is I like this a lot. I think there's a lot to hang your hat on here. Very high accuracy, seems to be a great kid off the field. We would do all of that and say, yeah, first round pick makes sense. But because his last name is Sanders, people think that that's crazy and that his Sanders name is the only reason that he's in that conversation. And I think that is insane.
I think Matt Moist puts it very well.
Moist?
Ain't no one talking about Shiloh.
Exactly, dude. I had somebody in the comments on Twitter on Friday. This was actually the moment that made me text you. I forget exactly what they were saying, but somebody was saying, "Well, Sanders is the only reason. The Sanders name is the only reason he gets hype." And somebody else replied, "Tell that to Shiloh." And I liked that because I'm like, "Yeah, tell that to Shiloh." And that person responded, "Well, Shiloh is benefiting from it too. The only reason he's being talked about as a draftable player is because of his last name." And incorrect. He's not a draftable player. If he gets drafted, it's because some team falls in love with him for whatever reason off the field. Has nothing to do with his last name. Shiloh, again, just go to Shiloh. Find Shiloh right now. Tell him, hey, did you know that you're a great benefactor of the Sanders last name right now in terms of NFL draft status? He would say, what are you talking about? Because I'm out here fighting for my life, man. I have no idea if I'm going to be drafted.
Yeah, exactly. All right. We're going to have to skip and save. We're going to have to take that second topic and put it in our back pocket.
That's fine.
For another day, because we got some super chats to get to when it comes to this Shedeur Sanders name conversation. We'll get to those and some other comments from you guys, and I'll update the YouTube poll about the hype versus hate on the Sanders last name here in a second. But T-Dot is out there trying to keep our state beautiful, and they've been doing that with their campaign, NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. That's where you can visit. Hopefully, fingers crossed, next week the weather is going to be a lot warmer than it is going to be over the next few days, which means that litter is going to be out there on our streets. We're going to accidentally or on purpose throw things out of our vehicles on the side of the roads because there's over 80 million pieces of litter on the roadways, and TDOT is out there trying to do everything it can to keep our state beautiful, and we can all pitch in by going to NobodyTrashesTennessee.com. That's where you can find out how to get involved, how to change some bad habits you may have, how to help have your kids get involved for great volunteer opportunities as well, to help out your community like we all should be doing with our state, keeping our state beautiful at NobodyTrashesTennessee.com.
Hey, before we continue on with some trivia, or some, not trivia, throwing shade today, and a little bit left here on our conversation about the Sanders family, make sure you're leaving us a 5-star Google review. That is the way to help us out most this morning. After you've liked the show, after you've subscribed, go over to Google, search A to Z Sports, leave a 5-star review, trying to get that to a flat 5.0 stars. Think we're still sitting at 4.9. So we need you to leave a 5-star review for us over there on Google reviews.
All right, so I want to get to a couple super chats. First of all, our guy King VC just says, haven't been here, lock in, like the show. So like
what
the
up,
show.
King?
Thank you, King VC, for that. Noah comes in with a larger super chat, $19.99. My deal with Shedeur is objectively a better. My deal is Shedeur is objectively a better NFL prospect than Hurts and Tua. They were in a more competitive conference, but Shedeur beats them in every metric except turnovers, and that was uncharacteristic of him. So what are your thoughts, Easton, on Noah's comment that Shedeur Sanders is objectively a better NFL prospect than both Jalen Hurts and Tua Tagovailoa? Now, with Jalen Hurts, you can say yes, right?
Hurts, yes, obviously.
Yes.
I would lean
Tua,
the other way on Tua personally. I would have drafted Tua ahead of Sanders probably. Again, my opinion on both of these guys going to be solidified over the next couple of weeks with the combine and pro days and meetings and as I sleuth on all of those things and get a lot of residual information from those things. But as of right now, I definitely think Tua would have been drafted ahead of Sanders pretty clearly. I would have done that.
The number one pick in this class. And
agreed.
In this class, we covering and talking about the Titans would not be talking about trading out of the pick ever.
Correct. Yeah, he would be that undisputed guy.
We'd be spending all of our time talking about the 35th pick overall.
Right.
What do the Titans pair with Tua?
Right, exactly. So I'm halfway with you on that. But what was the rest of the comment, or was he just kind of explaining?
Just saying that the only thing that Shedeur is not better at than Hurts or Tua is that the turnovers aspect.
It's so weird that people are latching onto the turnovers for him. Where's this again? There are plenty of reasons to dislike Shedeur.
I mean, he threw
Turnovers-
10. I think he threw 10 interceptions. That's double-digit interceptions in 12, 13 games or whatever.
Yeah.
And I think it,
And he
it's
threw almost
because
40 touchdowns. Like,
yeah, but that's because he threw the ball a lot. Like, yeah, because he
Okay.
had to, right?
he was
Like,
the whole offense.
but
Yeah.
I'm agreeing with you. Like, that's what I'm
Yeah.
saying. Like,
Yeah.
it's like he threw 10 interceptions because he threw the football a ton because they could not do anything else. And they had a bad defense. They couldn't run the football. They couldn't stop anybody else. So they had to throw the ball a lot. So to
Yes.
speak. Other super chat, Darren comes in and says, honestly, the Sanders last name fuels the hate more because there's a lot of background football politics with Sanders, been that way for a long time. So to update the poll, what does the Sanders name affect more? Shedeur's draft hype or his draft hate? 63% say the draft hate is affected more than the 37% of the draft hype. So that's closer than the 80-20 on buy or sell on Shedeur's biggest, loudest problem being his dad.
Mhm.
So, I mean, look, there's a lot of we were not that far removed from Deion Sanders' name being floated out there for the Dallas Cowboys head coaching job, and Jerry talking about it and Deion talking about it too.
They had a phone call. Yeah.
They had a phone
Hey,
call.
Just by the way, get this firmly on the record for everybody, if you've been like half paying attention, tune in real quick. So we all are on the same page here. Last 2 years, Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders have both thrown exactly 64 touchdowns each. Same number of touchdowns. Cam Ward has thrown one more interception than Shedeur Sanders. Cam Ward has thrown 14 interceptions. Shedeur Sanders has thrown 13. So, like, I don't know what we're talking about with the turnovers, man. And Cam Ward in his college career has fumbled the ball 50 times, 50. So I'm not sitting here saying the reason you can't draft Cam Ward is because of the turnovers. I do think it's a concern. But if we're going to talk about turnovers with one of these guys, it's Cam. It's not Shedeur.
I think with Cam Ward, you're worried about the turnover-worthy plays that did not end up in turnovers.
That's also a part of it. Absolutely. And the cavalier nature of his play style at times, which is a blessing and a curse. I mean, Will Levis watchers know that story, right? Not saying that he is Will Levis and that's not a direct comp by any means.
Mhm.
Because Will Levis is an infinitely better arm than him. Just if we want to put that little take out there. Cam Ward's my good friends Zach Lyons and Stoney Keeley yesterday on the radio over at 104.5 did a great job of pointing out the most overrated element of Cam Ward's profile is that he has this transcendent, incredible arm. He is a good arm talent. He is not an elite arm talent.
Yep. All right. So another super chat, and then we'll wrap up and get to some shade because I got some shade. Kick of the King says, bank on it. Dart to the Steelers, Ewers to the Raiders.
Maybe I'd be surely we're talking about Ewers to the Raiders,
like the third round, fourth round.
Yeah.
Whatever the Raiders pick between like 80 and 120.
Yeah. Yeah. You know what's funny? Just a weird little anecdote about Ewers, and I'm taking people's word for this because they know better than me in terms of like the actual like Zebra analytics numbers that you get from like in-house during the season, like the actual tracking data. But like the guy with the just purely strongest arm in the draft class. You want to take a guess on who has the strongest arm, Austin?
Well, I know. It was crap. Dylan Gabriel from Oregon.
No. That was a talking point. That was a Senior Bowl thing. I'm talking about the whole draft class.
I mean, Milroe can sling it. I don't know who.
It's Quinn probably has the strongest, just pure ability to throw the ball down the field. Quinn has probably the strongest arm.
Just imagine if he used his legs.
Right. It just goes to show that like having the strongest arm or the biggest build, or in Jalen Milroe's, case, being the fastest, most athletic guy. Don't overrate those the combine. Or when we're in our combine time of year, we tend to like really get goo goo gaga eyes for certain traits like that. When as NFL teams have made it clear to you in the last, and coaches on this here program have made it clear to you in the past couple of months, we care mostly what's right here.
Yeah.
It's those other things are nice. They're on top of the fact that you can handle it here.
For sure. All right, time for some shade. Let's get some shade thrown today because, guys, I have some shade for you.
Too.
So if you have shade to throw shade now. We'll read it in the chat. Here we go. And shout out to our friends at Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. See them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com to save money on that new ride. So shade to be thrown. If you want to throw some shade, you can do that. I feel like we've been throwing shade most of the show because of all the conversations about Dion and Shedeur and the Sanders name and all that kind of stuff. But Easton, I'm going to kick off this shade as shade continues to roll in from the chat.
What you got?
I'm throwing shade at members of the A to Z Sports audience.
Oh, no.
Hating on us not having a live show yesterday. And I've got receipts because Easton, you took screenshots.
I did.
So Karen, so Austin and Zach take President's Day off and get a 3-day weekend. Like, that's the worst thing in the world. Jeff says, FYI, this isn't live. We told you guys that. Let's see. We've got more comments I'm trying to find flying in here.
Fake grinders is apparently what you and Zach are. Fake grinders.
Yeah. Part-time Austin talking about me not being on the show.
Yeah.
So there's other comments that you screenshotted that are not loading for me right now because apparently my computer's hyperventilating. But
I'll go pull some.
guys, Toff, because you favorited this. American Toff. Dude, I was on vacation for a week, and the first day I got back was a pre-recorded show. Yeah, I was a tad disappointed.
Tough. That means you have a whole backlog of a week's worth of shows that you've missed.
Yes. And so
go watch those.
We had 6+ months of football season starting from training camp in late July. It was after the Super Bowl. We were going through all of these different storylines. The month of January was an absolute grind because of all the firings and hirings and the interviews and the news to follow and how many times we had to January was a lot of work. But we took off President's Day and we gave you guys a recorded, really good NFL draft interview from Easton that we're doing once a week moving forward for the next 3 months.
Yeah, newsflash for some of you out there, Lou, who hate premieres on the A to Z Sports YouTube channel. There's going to be a lot more of them between now and the draft, so get used to it, buddy.
We're giving you more content. Here's another newsflash. Zach and I have never done a live show on President's Day.
Why is that, Austin?
Because it's in the middle of February after the Super Bowl when there's nothing happening. Like, there is nothing happening right now. There's nothing going on in the NFL. There's no approaching deadline. The NFL Combine's over a week away. The Senior Bowl was like 3 weeks previously.
Mm-hmm.
The Super Bowl just ended. Everybody's exhaling. The parade happened in Philly last week. Valentine's Day was over the weekend. You guys are doing other things than football for like this week. And then the Combine starts. And so we took a day off. I was able to have a morning yesterday where I wasn't scrambling and doing things and all this stuff. I took a long shower and relaxed and was able to breathe and not have to rush through a morning shower on a weekday for the first time in like 7 months. So, yeah, we took a morning off.
Yeah. American Toff, the screenshot from Toff yesterday was not the usual today. I've been gone a week and returned to this. The hell's the world come to? I am sorry that you didn't get your live show on Monday, Toff, but them's the breaks.
Yeah, so that was
them's
my
the breaks. Anyways, that's good shade. I like that shade.
Cap says, haven't seen much of Sam. Sam did a video yesterday, and he will be on the rest of the week because, Easton, I will let you talk about your shade now.
Well, so my shade has to do with the rest of my week. And it has to do with the weather that's about to hit the Middle Tennessee area later today. I am going on vacation supposed to be tomorrow morning. Now it's going to be tonight because we had to move our flight up because the system of weather that's coming through was going to ruin our ability to get out of town tomorrow. And it's the first time I've ever really been rooting against snow here. Like I've never had a real conflict with it where it's like, oh, this snow is going to ruin something for me. And, I'm trying to get out of town and go on my vacation. Like I'm going snowboarding for the weekend before the Combine and trying to get that out of the way before you and Sam have big things coming up in March where we've kind of scheduled this out to where like Easton's going to go first and then you're going to have some time off and Sam's going to have some time off for his wedding. And we have these things. And all week long, I've been just stressing like, oh, my vacation's going to get ruined. I'm not going to be able to reschedule because they're going to be gone and I'm going to have to be here. And then I'm going to want to just die by the time we get to May. So I think we're getting out of here. I mean, the thing is we moved our flight up from Wednesday morning to tonight we're supposed to leave at 9:30 tonight. and we're just going to get a hotel room in Denver for the night. And they've already delayed this flight 30 minutes. So I'm hoping that, even this one is not. If I am online just crashing out on Twitter, losing my mind tonight, you know why. It's because the weather has ruined my ability to get away from all this. And my brain needs a reset so bad before the combine. You have no idea. I need this vacation, guys. So that's my shade, is the weather potentially ruining my ability to get out of town.
There you go. Hopefully for your sake, I hope you guys get to take your trip. Let's see. Shade that I wanted to read from the audience. Jeff, I saw throwing shade on the new Captain America movie. Everyone I've talked to has said it's not good.
I've heard.
Have you seen it though?
So he's throwing shade on the movie he's not seen. That's crazy. I've heard some folks say it's like fun and fine, and I've heard some really bad things, as Jeff has. So I don't know.
But you're not. Yeah, I mean,
I think Jeff. Here's your assignment for the week. Go see the movie, and then you can shade it next Tuesday.
Yes, Ethan. Shade on people who did not like the new NBA All-Star game format. Sure, it wasn't the answer, but it's better than it has been.
Shade on Ethan for defending the NBA All-Star weekend.
I mean, look,
it's awful. What are we talking about?
I don't watch it. I think All-Star games jumped the shark a while ago.
Not the NHL, my friend. NHL's figured it out.
Yeah, but
it's awesome.
It
rocks.
I don't watch it because I don't watch hockey, but I
hadn't watched a minute of hockey all year until the US-Canada game the other night, and I watched every minute of that game. And I'm going to watch every minute of it again on Thursday.
Yeah.
It's good stuff, man. I mean, there were 3 fights in the first 90 seconds. Well,
yeah.
What more could you ask for?
The US-Canada beef has just been boiling for 10 years like it was in a crock pot.
The Kachuk brothers are a national security problem.
Yeah. Caleb says, my shade is for the fake Jackson Dart hype from national media, abysmal against any good defenses. Yeah, I mean, Jackson Dart, as you guys came out of the Senior Bowl, maybe the most polarizing guy at the Senior Bowl, maybe not of the entire draft, because we've been talking about probably the most polarizing guy for an hour of Shedeur Sanders. So,
Jackson Dart is going to have a very hard time just learning a basic NFL playbook, and that's partially Lane Kiffin's fault. Actually, largely Lane Kiffin's fault.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why. This is a good question from our buddy Nick Suss the other day. Who's the most successful Ole Miss skill player in the NFL right now?
Well, AJ.
Wait. Yeah. Wait, no.
DK Metcalf.
What was that? What was his actual question?
You talking about quarterback?
No, because obviously there's not a super successful quarterback. Oh, no. It's most successful Ole Miss skill player that played for Lane. Because AJ and DK did not play for Lane. Yeah, I was like, wait, did I just break my own question?
Yeah,
no. No. It's like
Quinshawn Judkins when he leaves Ohio State.
Okay. That'll be a technical yes.
Yeah.
But is it
fair point? They haven't put out any talent. Well, I mean, Trey Harris is a really good receiver, right? And he's a maybe second round pick, third round pick.
Yeah, he may be the best one immediately this year. Yeah.
Right. No, it's a good point. They haven't put out a ton of.
It's just funny how your alma mater, the University of Tennessee, gets a lot of hate for being a Mickey Mouse offense, which it is from an NFL standpoint. But Ole Miss, maybe it's just regional thing. Maybe Ole Miss, if you're in that area, it gets more hate. Ole Miss should get the most hate for being a Mickey Mouse situation because they put out skill players and particularly quarterbacks that can't handle basic NFL things. So, anyways,
yeah. Well, Hugh Freeze is the reason why Malik Willis wasn't ready. Hugh Freeze was the reason why the quarterbacks previously at Ole Miss weren't ready.
But that's more acceptable at a Liberty, don't you think? At Ole Miss, you should be able to run a pro-style system.
Let me know when the next Auburn quarterback under Hugh Freeze comes to the NFL draft.
Hey, wait, never mind. Good point. Good point. Any more shades here?
I did see some. There's lots of shades. You had one you were going to read?
He keeps talking about where's James Foster. James does not work here anymore. James is doing great over at the 33rd team. So check out James. I thought we made this clear to people a long time ago.
Yeah.
He hasn't been with us all football season.
Yeah. He was left end of August.
James is alive and well and working somewhere else.
Yeah. That should be it. Good shade, I guess. We're over time, but that's a solid show, busy show overall. So yeah, there we go. Make sure you hit that like button. and we'll be back here on a Wednesday morning.
Live the rest of the week for all of you live
rest
lovers.
of the week. Man, we take a day off and people flip.
We just take 1 week off at some
just
point. And just
talking
watch,
heads
see if,
and I mean, we
world
do in
falls
July,
apart.
around the July 4th.
Oh, do we? What do
Yeah.
they do? Do they just come into the YouTube comments all week wondering where we are?
No, it's
Screaming?
July 4th. They don't care. They're doing grill stuff and shooting off fireworks. I mean,
So their problem is the fact that it was a fake holiday.
Yes, but
I saw somebody earlier ask, what presidents did you celebrate yesterday, Austin?
The precedent that we've set that we don't do a show. How about that?
Okay, that's a nice little wordplay.
There you go. All right, make sure you hit that like button, like the show before you go. Subscribe to the channel, 5-star Google review, and we'll catch you guys live tomorrow morning with Sam and I the rest of the week. And Buck is also back from his little miniature break as the season ends. Prime time back tonight at 7 p.m. Central Time. We'll catch you guys later. Appreciate it as always.